Welcome, everybody. I'm Marilyn Bradford, and I'm joined by my co-host, Pamela Houghteling, and this is another edition of the Irreverent Therapists. So today's topic is, what do your neighbors say about you? Do you care? Do you pretend not to care? I don't care. Most people do care what others think of them, at least to some extent. Hence the development of the image to portray what you think is going to get other people to judge you positively. We create images in order to control others' opinions of us. We show up as the good neighbor, the perfect family, or successful business person. To the extent that we believe these images or make them important, we negate us and who we really are. What would it be like to just be who you are? Just be you, even if others judged you harshly? Why do we even care? Good question.
Why do we even care? And how much do we care?
Pam, I would say you are in the top 3 people I know who really don't care.
Well, it hasn't always been that way.
Okay, well, do tell.
I can remember, so, I was a kid who started feeling very shy and self-conscious and stuff, when I can remember like 2nd, 3rd grade. And in 4th grade, we moved to a neighborhood that was, at the time it seemed very posh to me. It was and I can remember feeling like I had to check what I'm wearing before I go out to the mailbox.
Oh, wow.
It was, now with the tools I have, yes. I know that was me being very aware of people around me and that it wasn't actually anything to do with me. But for a very long time as a kid, basically I was always trying to perceive what was going on with everybody and make them happy.
Oh, so I know that one.
Mm-hmm. I cared a lot about what people thought of me because I wanted them to, think well of me.
Yes.
And I did a lot of work, including access consciousness tools to get out of that and to be the person you just talked about who, I'm not always comparing myself to other people.
Right. Well, I can relate to those childhood experiences, but different reason for me. My sister was 5 years older and she was always getting in trouble. And I looked at what she did and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the opposite of that. Yeah. So I was compliant and I just happened to be this really cute blonde thing. And I became the favorite, which of course she hated. She beat me up a couple of times. But I was doing it for kind of self-preservation, really. Yeah. And it's interesting because looking at this, there's still times, we develop these patterns in childhood and they're still with us.
Yeah.
If we're not willing to be aware of it. And so there's still times I'll find myself, really, Marilyn.
Yeah. Well, I think there can be so many different things going on with someone that makes them care what everybody thinks. Yes. Like it could be you're trying to please everybody and, be what works for them so you're not judged. It can be so important to you to be right that, you need to be right and have everybody see you that way. It can be, about, there's this image out there of what I think I should be, what the media is telling me, what my society is telling me, and I'm trying to live up to that. So, and that's just a few. So, you listening, you might have your own particular take on what it is that makes you care about what other people are thinking of you. And I think you don't have to know where it comes from, but I think sometimes it can be helpful.
Yes. Well, I'm aware, and I mentioned this in the little description at the beginning. One of the big differences with the whole issue of image is whether or not you believe that's you.
Yeah.
Or you can, for instance, I live in a cul-de-sac with 4 houses, and the landlady lives in one of them, and I make an effort to be a good tenant. I care what her opinion is. She sets the rent. She fixes things or not. And we've had some real doozy people staying in the 2 other houses. So I'm aware I'm doing that, but I also kind of like it. I like to be a good tenant, you know, pay my bills on time and be pleasant and take the trash out and all those things.
Well, and I think like so many things, it's not about, it's not like don't care what anybody thinks, and it's not care so much. It's having choice.
Yes.
So like you're describing, okay, in a given situation, yeah, I'm very aware of the image that I'm creating.
Yes.
And I want the perception that I'm a good tenant. If you're going to try to get a job, that's not the time to be like, oh, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I'm going to go be me. And, if that is something that doesn't convey well to a possible employer, but so having that awareness of like the context of the situation and what works is different than, it's kind of like 2 sides of the same coin of I'm either totally caring what people think to the point that I'm limiting me and not being me, or I'm so insisting on it. Both have like a fight or a resistance.
Yes. Oh, that's a really good point
to them. Whereas just I'm going to be me no matter what, but I'm also aware, and I can easily give people what they require.
Yes.
You're giving your landlord what she requires.
Yes.
To know that you're a tenant she wants to hang on to.
Well, and it's interesting because I've realized that one of the many things that access consciousness gives us or shows us is how to be aware of other people's agendas. Yeah. And these last 2 people, who one terminated her lease early and the other one, the landlady would not renew her lease. It was like they were so stupid about, that's not even a judgment, that's an awareness about what their behavior was creating.
Yeah.
And rationalization and justification, had no concept of where the landlady was coming from.
Yeah.
And hence got themselves in a mess of trouble.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to be aware, you were talking about choice. If you're willing to be aware of someone's agenda, you learn, or you can then ask yourself questions. Okay, if I do this, what's that going to create? And do I care or do I not care?
Yeah.
I have like one friend who's pretty religious. Well, I'm not. I'm different, but I would never challenge their beliefs.
Yeah.
And another person who's really big on family. It matters so much, that her great, great, great aunt died. And I can respect that. It's not a belief that I have, but I'm like, oh, okay, that's part of her universe.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you're talking about, knowing where people are coming from. To me, it's be aware. Where are you? Who are you around? And what's going to work in this situation? Yes. And I want to go back to what you were saying about you and your landlord, because, basically you are aware that it's required for you to show up as a good tenant. You have a great situation. You want to keep it. Yes. But you're not cutting off you. You're not diminishing you. No. You're not feeling like you're putting on an act. You're just willing to be aware of, okay, for this is required. And it totally works for me to show up that way. Because I'm not making myself less to do so. And I think that's a really good sign of where you're coming from with regards to other people is, are you feeling like you have to be less to fit in with what they require and what they need? And, that's a path I would suggest you not go down. Find a way to be you and be aware and choose what works in that situation.
And another thing, just to expand on that, so many people believe, well, they're unconscious about the behaviors they choose. but they also believe that their behaviors define them. Now, it really works for me, as you said. I'm not compromising myself anyway to be a good tenant. But there could be a situation if I were around, I have to think of something here, but if I were around a lot of right-wing people, I might keep my mouth shut. Just
But also, Marilyn, with the tools you have, you would not be diminishing you.
No, I would not be.
And I think that's the thing. It's like you can have the same action, you can have the same how I'm showing up in this situation from I'm making myself less because I've decided this is what's important is that I fit in here and that this, you know, and it's a whole different thing to just know you and that you're choosing what works because that works for you and it makes life easier and or something like that. So,
well, if you're trying to fit in, then you're in this constant state of judgment and you're allowing other people to control you in your life. You really can't be you if you're trying to fit in and you take it seriously.
Now I think it was our last show was the holiday hangover. If not, it was just a couple of shows ago. But we talked a lot about like people's expectations, you know, so in the description, you talked about the good neighbor, the perfect family. Like we have these expectations of what, you know, what that should be. And then we're trying to create the right image to fit in with that and have that even when it sometimes feels incredibly inauthentic and unreal. So Marilyn, like if you say somebody is listening and they're like, yep, that's me. I am totally diminishing myself to try to fit in at work or whatever. Like, what are some of your favorite tools for like being able to be you and not get caught up in what people think?
Well, one of them, which is may seem radical to people, was whenever you have that urge to do that, ask yourself, who does this belong to? How many of the people in the office want to fit in? And how much does the boss want you to fit in? Because we are like psychic sponges. We'll pick up everybody else's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So just ask, is this actually mine? Do I actually care? Or am I just picking up everybody else's thoughts, feelings, and emotions and making them mine?
I have a great example of that. My daughter's in college and she'll call me going, oh, Mom, I'm freaking out. And I ask her, I'm like, are you freaking out or are you aware of other people freaking out?
Right.
And then when she actually looks at it, you know, her workload, her homework, her everything is completely fine.
Yes.
But all her friends are freaked out about theirs. And just that her having that moment of acknowledging, oh, I'm aware of other people's stuff, but it doesn't mean I have to take it on myself. And she can just be present with what is for her. And then she has no more angst.
Yeah. Another great tool is to, oops, the train left the station. Hold on 1 minute. I had a great tool.
I'll do one. Oh, you have it?
One, and then I'll do the other one I was going to do.
It might be the same, but interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And it's a really easy tool. It's like, you know, again, I'll use my daughter as an example. Say she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so freaked out. She can say, interesting point of view. I have this point of view that I'm so freaked out. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view that I should be freaked out. You know, like whatever it is, it's just an interesting point of view. Or I could say, I felt like Marilyn's mad at me. Well, interesting point of view. I have this point of view, and interesting point of view. She has this point of view about me. Because it helps you get out of the middle of it and kind of have some space and go, oh, it really is just, you know, I should be getting more done. That really is just a point of view.
Yes. It's what we make significant.
Yeah.
That then interesting point of view is so helpful.
And so in terms of what we're talking about, interesting point of view, I have this point of view that of what do my neighbors think of me?
Yes.
Or I need them to think something well of me.
Yes. Another one is to realize that what everybody else thinks of you is not personal. This is going to seem bizarre to people, but it's not.
No.
It's just their point of view. And if you could walk out in, I don't know, designer jeans and a nice shirt, and someone would think, oh, wow, she really or he really looks great. Yeah. Or somebody else could go, oh, they're just trying to impress somebody. They're not. Or, well, I think that style of jeans is out of fashion right now. If you have 13 people commenting on how you're dressed, you're going to have 13 different points of view, which can help you realize that it's all arbitrary. Yeah. It's just their point of view, and it actually has nothing to do with you. They have like 18,000 filters that they filter their points of view through, and you happen to then be out there in their red, orange, blue, green filter. Yeah. So they give you their point of view.
Well, and then another one that I'll add on is, we tend to, with something like this, we tend to make our world very small, right? Yes. It's like, oh, I'm worried about what my neighbors think or my friends think or my, coworkers, and you're just tied into that. Yes. If you've ever raised kids or recall when you were a kid, you can remember, maybe in your teens, what people thought of you was so important. And then you got a little older and you're like, who cares? Yeah. But so a great thing to do, and you can do it right now, you can close your eyes or not, but you just take a moment and just get a sense of you and, where you're sitting and kind of the outer edges of you. And then I'm going to ask you to expand your awareness to fill the whole room. And then what if you can actually expand your awareness to include the whole building you live in and the area around you? And, again, you might think, oh, this is crazy, but what if you can expand out 100 miles or even 1,000 miles? And notice that just creates a lot of space. So when you're going like this, where everything's so, just condensed and you're only aware of what's right with you, and this seems so significant, you can expand out that way, expand your awareness, and it's like, oh, there's actually a lot more space here, and this isn't as significant as I had thought.
And one more thing before we finish up. I really am worried what Bob thinks of me. Ask yourself, am I going to have that on my tombstone?
Love that. Yep. That's a great thing. Yeah. Because it can make you realize you're making something so significant that in the scope of your life or the scope of the universe, it's just not that big a deal.
It's not that big a deal.
Yeah. So I think that's a great note to leave on. So I will cue the music.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining and listening. We're glad to have you. Bye-bye.